to Jesseology. Today we have our first ever bracketology on the channel where we are going to be predicting the March Madness games of 2024. And this isn't the official bracket, but this is from Joe Lunardi and Joe Lunardi's bracketology. And this is where he sees all the teams being seeded. And from that, we made a copy of that. We put it here, and we are going to make some predictions. So starting up, we have Purdue and Norfolk State. I did pick all the play-in games, and I had Norfolk State beating another 16 seed to get in the play-in game. And then I like Purdue to win. Not much to talk about there. Texas and Florida Atlantic. Now, this is going to be a good matchup. Florida Atlantic, obviously, guard-heavy, playing with 4 guards and 1 big. They get it to that big Vlad inside a lot, and then they can also shoot the 3. John L. Davis, Nick Boyd are great 3-point shooters, both shooting over 40%, I believe. And Texas is more inconsistent. I am a huge fan of Tyrese Hunter and Max A. Smith. But I just think the Florida Atlantic depth is too much. Their bench with Jalen Gaffney, Brandon Weatherspoon, Brian Greenlee. It's too much to overcome with Texas. So I do like Florida Atlantic to beat Texas. Nevada and Richmond. I'm going to go with Nevada. Nevada's been playing really good. I'm a huge fan of Blackshear. Nevada has proven they're not home merchants. They can win on the road. They've won huge road games. They beat Washington on the road. They beat Georgia Tech on a neutral site. They won at Colorado State, at Boise State. So I do like Nevada there. Auburn and Charleston. This is a tough one because Auburn, I'm a huge fan of Janai Broom. I think he's really good, really good post player, really good at the left elbow as well. And I like Denver Jones as well. He's been hot from 3. He's shooting 8 for 10 in his last game. But Charleston, I just think they have the experience. I'm going to take a 13/4 here. And I really like this Charleston team. They're on a big win streak after a poor non-conference schedule. They will play in their championship game today versus Stony Brook, and the winner will go dancing. But I do like Charleston. I think they're hot, and I'm not the biggest fan of Auburn. But because they struggle in big games, and they're good at home, but they also struggle on the road a lot. I believe they only have 1 or 2 quad 1 wins, which isn't good. Up next, we have Washington State and James Madison. And I am going to take James Madison. James Madison is super good from 3. They can shoot lights out. They have really good guard play, really good wings, and, they have that big that's good as well. And if you watch them play, they're a good team. They've proven they can win in big games. They beat a top 5 team in the country at the time in East Lansing against Michigan State. They're 30-3. They pretty much ran through the Sun Belt with no problem. Give me James Madison. And Washington State is a team who has struggled lately. They lost versus Washington at home. They lost versus Arizona State. So give me James Madison. Oakland and Iowa State. I'm going to take Iowa State. Their defense is going to carry them through the tournament, and defense wins championships. I like Iowa State there. Florida and Michigan State. I'm going to take Michigan State. I think they have just a little more talent than Florida. Tyson Walker, A.J. Hogarth, those 2 players are really good players. And I think this Michigan State team, the sky's the limit for them. A great coach in Tom Izzo. It's his month, March. And, Xavier Booker, he's got more playing time. I like Michigan State. I think they're more talented. Marquette and Quinnipiac. I'm going to go with Marquette there. I think Marquette is good in the first round, but watch out for them. Shaka Smart hasn't really proved he can get over the hump, but Tyler Kolek, I'm a huge fan of his game, and I do like Marquette there. Purdue and Florida Atlantic. This is a game I really like Florida Atlantic in, and they have Vlad Golden who can contend with Zach Edey, and I'd like them to see Giancarlo Rosaro and Vlad Golden for FAU to put both of them on at the same time because they can double Edey pretty easily, and that is why I like Florida Atlantic over Purdue. Purdue has really struggled in the tournament. I don't really trust Matt Painter. Dusty May's a great coach. Florida Atlantic's guard play of John L. Davis, Nick Boyd, Elijah Martin can compete with Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer. And I don't think it's that big of a stretch to say Florida Atlantic has better guards than Purdue. Up next, we have Nevada and Charleston. I am going to take Nevada. Nevada, I just really like their team. They proved they can win on the road and on neutral courts, and that's huge in March. I think they will win the Mountain West. Early prediction for that. So I do like Nevada. I am going to take Iowa State over James Madison. Iowa State, when they shoot threes, they're pretty much, when they make threes, they're pretty much unstoppable. I'm a huge fan of Trey King. When he's on from three, they're just really good because their defense is super good. Lipsky is a great guard, gets to the hoop very well. Give me Iowa State. Marquette and Michigan State. We saw this exact matchup last year, and Michigan State won. I think Marquette gets revenge. Oso Iguodala is the big that you got to watch out for. I think he dominates in this game, as well as Cam Jones. Tyler Kolek should be back by this time because he will be playing in the Big East tournament. Give me Marquette. Florida Atlantic and Nevada. This is a very good matchup for Florida Atlantic because Nevada isn't great from beyond the perimeter. Now, they are a great defensive team, but I think Florida Atlantic will make too many threes. And just their depth is so good, and they have tournament experience. Iowa State and Marquette, I'm going to go with Iowa State. They have the better defense. I'm not too high on either of these teams, but I will go with Iowa State. And then we have Florida Atlantic versus Iowa State, and I will go with Florida Atlantic. These two teams were in the same tournament, the one in Orlando this year. And Florida Atlantic won that tournament. Florida Atlantic plays up to competition. They beat Arizona. They beat A&M. They beat Butler. They beat Virginia Tech. They've beaten Charleston. Give me Florida Atlantic to come out of the region. And I wouldn't say this is a Cinderella team because they did it last year, but they are a 9 seed, and I do pick upsets. Next, we have Tennessee and Stetson moving on to the South. Give me Tennessee. Huge fan of what Dalton Knecht did this year, and I believe he's one of the best small forwards in the country, and I praised him at the beginning of the year while no one else knew he was. Dayton and Oklahoma. Give me Oklahoma. I think Dayton is leading towards more of the frauds of the mid-majors. I like this Oklahoma team. They prove that they can compete with good teams and play good teams. BYU and South Florida. I'm going to take the 12-5. I'm going to take South Florida. I'm a huge fan of Chris Youngblood. Amir Abdul-Rahim is doing a great job bringing all his players in over from Kennesaw State. Chris Youngblood, Selton Miguel. So, huge fan of this South Florida team, and I think they can go far in March. Up next, we have the Will Wade's McNeese State versus Illinois. I'm going to take Illinois. Terrence Hinton Jr., it's a pleasure to watch him play. And Damascus has been super good. He's really good at the top of the key as well. He can drive. He's probably the best player inside the lane. When he lays it in off the glass, he uses his body to get inside. He's a fan of this Illinois team. Gonzaga and Mississippi State. Gonzaga is playing their best basketball now. In March, that's what you need. Graham Ike is playing some great basketball for this Gonzaga team, and he's averaging like 23 points. So I like Gonzaga there. Nolan Hickman as well, great player. Baylor and Toledo. I'm going to take Baylor. Baylor has kind of been inconsistent, but, they're a good team. I really am a fan of how they are doing this year. Scott Drew's a great head coach. And, they've had some slip-ups, but they've come back strong sometimes. And, I like Baylor to win. I think they're good at the three. They have good guards, and they have that one big who's also good. Seton Hall and Utah State. This is a tough one, but I'm going to go with Utah State here. I think Utah State is a underrated team, and I'm a fan of the Mountain West. I think that Utah State beats Seton Hall. Seton Hall has really struggled. They've lost They lost twice. They did beat Villanova, which is a huge win, but they got blown out to both Creighton and UConn. Granted, those are great teams, but, would have liked to see them play closer, but they did beat UConn and Marquette. I think they're the only team to do that. Well, Creighton is too, but they're one of the only teams to do that. Arizona and Montana. Give me Arizona. But Montana, that's sneaky. Like, Arizona lost in the first round last year. Montana's not too shabby team. They made it last year. They lost to Kansas State first round, but watch out for that game. Tennessee and Oklahoma, I'm going to take Tennessee. Huge fan of Josiah Jordan James, so I like Tennessee. Dalton Connect as well. If they can get it to Ziegler, that'd be huge. He's probably one of the best guards in the country. He's such a cerebral, smart player. Give me Tennessee there. South Florida and Illinois, I'm going to take Illinois. Coleman Hawkins will be the key there. South Florida doesn't have too much size. Casey Pryor is their biggest guy at like 6'8". Illinois' Coleman Hawkins. Coleman Hawkins is going to have a day versus South Florida. Gonzaga and Baylor, I'm going to go Gonzaga there. I feel like this is like Baylor is going to struggle again in the second round like they did versus Creighton last year. Gonzaga's hot in March. Baylor's not. They just lost by 10 versus Texas Tech. Utah State and Arizona. Arizona is such a good team. They're probably the most talented team in the country with Boswell, with Umar Boswell as well, and Keyshawn Johnson. They're a team where they get up, but they also can blow leads. I like how they play zone on defense, and if they can get it inside to Bolo, he's one of the best finishers in the country. He uses his body to throw the ball at the glass, and he has such finesse finishes. So give me Arizona. Tennessee and Illinois. We saw this matchup before in Rocky Top. I'm going to take Illinois. I think Illinois is probably the better team when you look at the two, just because of TJ Shinn. I think he's the best player in the country this year. Let me make sure I say best player, not person, because of with all the allegations. I mean, I'm not sure what's happening, but he's just so good. The ways he finds to get to the hoop are insane, and he's going to be an NBA star. They play a lot of pick and roll, Tennessee, and sometimes they lob it to Illinois. Sometimes they lob it to Hawkins, and he can find good ways to get inside, which I also like. Gonzaga and Arizona, Tommy Lloyd versus old team. I'm going to go Arizona there. Arizona, I just feel like Gonzaga's defense has lacked a lot lately, and Gonzaga has lost the big games they played. They lost to Purdue by a lot. They lost to UConn by a lot. They lost to St. Mary's at home. Arizona is not like that. Arizona wins their big games. And I just think Umar Boa has a day against them. Illinois and Arizona, I'm going to take Illinois. I just think that Illinois' firepower is just a little bit more. They're going to stay in the game no matter what happens. In Arizona, we've seen them struggle in tight games. They lost in overtime to FAU. They blew a huge lead to Washington State. They don't know how to win those shootouts, and Illinois does. So, our first two teams in the Final Four are Florida Atlantic and Illinois. Now, let's move up to the top right region. We are going to take UConn over Longwood. Nebraska, Boise State. Boise State is a bit too much of home merchants. I like Nebraska. They have that really small guard. He's super good, and I really like this Nebraska team this year. South Carolina and Grand Canyon. Give me Grand Canyon. They have experience in the tournament. They've made it the last 2 years. I like this Grand Canyon team. Kansas and Samford. I'm going to take Samford too. I think this Kansas team is fraud. They have a good first three in KJ Adams, Hunter Dickinson, and Kevin McCullough. But two of them have dealt with major injuries this year, and they've just proven to be super inconsistent. They don't have any depth. Samford's a good team out of Birmingham. I like Samford. Clemson and St. John's. I'm going to go with St. John's. I like how St. John's plays. They take a lot of mid-range shots, and they're hot at the right time. Rick Pitino, you can't doubt him. One of the best coaches. Up next, we have Kentucky and Morehead State. I'm going to take Kentucky. I really like this Kentucky team this year. They're a really, really smart team. I think the way they play, they pass up 2s for 3s. They're unselfish. They're good off the pick and roll. Reed Shepherd is just awesome. So I like that, as well as Antonio Reeves. He's been playing lights out lately. St. Mary's and TCU. I'm going to go with St. Mary's. TCU's very cold. St. Mary's isn't. They're hot. I'm going to go with St. Mary's. Colgate and North Carolina. I could see Colgate winning. Colgate is in the tournament every year as a 14 or 15, and they get so close. Usually, that Arkansas game, they almost won. They didn't almost beat Texas, but they kept it respectful versus Texas. But I'm going to go with North Carolina in a close one. UConn and Nebraska. UConn just has too much depth. They have such a good team. Tristan Newton is so good. He's so fun to watch. How he uses his first step is super good. We see him drive left, shoot it with that right hand. I like UConn clinging as well. He's just going to back down anyone in the paint. Grand Canyon and Samford. I'm going to take Grand Canyon. I'm not too familiar with either of these teams, but Grand Canyon is consistently in the tournament. Give me that. St. John's and Kentucky. I'm going to take Kentucky here. I just think they have too much talent, even though St. John's is really good. St. Mary's in North Carolina. I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going St. Mary's. Huge fan of St. Mary's team. I do like RJ Davis, but North Carolina has been inconsistent this season. They've dropped games to Syracuse, to Georgia Tech, and I'm not saying St. Mary's hasn't, but St. Mary's had a weak non-conference schedule. They didn't do great in it, and they've been awesome so far in the conference schedule. They had one conference loss to Gonzaga. You can't blame them for that. St. Mary's wins. UConn and Grand Canyon, not much to say. UConn blows them out. And then Kentucky beats St. Mary's. Now, these two teams, UConn and Kentucky, this could easily be the national championship game. These two could easily be the top two teams. But we don't have any one seeds in the Final Four. UConn is too much. Clayton is too good. I think he backs down Kentucky. Kentucky hasn't been playing the best in defenses lately. But I could definitely see Kentucky win. I just think that UConn wins out. Houston and South Dakota State. Houston, Northwestern, and Colorado State. I'm going to go with Northwestern. Boo Buie is so fun to watch. He has the confidence. He'll take a step back three in moments. He'll say, hey, I'm the guy. Let me drive. Let me get to the basket. Let me make a play here. Boo Buie's confidence, it's on another level. Give me Northwestern. San Diego State or Princeton. Although Princeton has been doing well in the Ivy League this year. I think San Diego State is a bit home merchant this year. They're 14-1 at home, and they're 5-8 on the road. So that's not ideal if you're San Diego State. However, I do think they get past Princeton. Alabama and UC Irvine. Give me UC Irvine there. Alabama, Mark Sears is super fun to watch. He also has that confidence. That's another edgy buff. But they can't play defense. Let's be honest here. Alabama is playing some of the worst basketball right now. They almost lost at home to Arkansas. They got up 105 to Florida. They got up 117 to Kentucky. They can't play defense. That's going to hurt them. UC Irvine beats them. Up next, we have Wisconsin and Virginia. I'm going to take Wisconsin. I think Virginia is also kind of that home merchant team. And they're super slow. They play good defense, but they struggle to score. And that's where Wisconsin comes in. They can score. Give me the Badgers. Duke and Vermont. Vermont is so good. I want to take Vermont. They make it to the tournament every year. Do I do it? I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Vermont, even though Duke has proved that they're good this year. But They did just drop a game at home versus North Carolina. Filipowski, is a good player along with Roach. I just don't trust them. I feel like they haven't won the big games. They played North Carolina twice. They had a chance both times. They didn't do it. They played Arizona at home. They had a chance. They didn't do it. Give me Vermont over Duke. Let's go Vermont. Texas Tech and Drake. I like Drake. I like DeVry. He's a great player. Or DeFree, the coach's son. Drake seems to make the tournament almost every other year. They beat Indiana State. They're looking really good. I like Drake. Creighton and Sam Houston. I'm going to go with Creighton here. I think Creighton's a really good team. They have a really good first three in Trey Alexander, Ryan Kalkbrenner, and Baylor Shireman, who will be the Big East Player of the Year. Up next, we have Houston Northwestern. This could be very sneaky, but I do like Houston. Jamal Shed, LJ Cryer, those two are first team or second team All-Americans. LJ Cryer shooting lights out. He may be the best player in the Big 12. Give me Houston. They've just smacked everyone so much. Jalen Roberts, you train at his game. He's their center. I like how they utilize him off lobs. After the pick and roll, they give him a lot of lobs. San Diego State and UC Irvine. I'm not a fan of either of these teams, but San Diego State has the experience in March. They do return Lamont Butler, who was there last year. Same with Jaden O'D, who has been he could be a first or second team All-American. I see he's a second team in a lot of people's things. San Diego State needs to get him the ball more. He's the identity of that team. Wisconsin and Vermont. I'm going to take Vermont. I'm a huge fan of Vermont again. I feel like they're playing the best basketball right now. Creighton and Drake. Give me Creighton. Hold on. I apologize for that there. So Creighton, the reason I like Creighton is because their top three shoots the ball and scores 66% of their possessions. But they also can play with other guys. People say they have no depth on their team, but Farabello's a good player. Stephen Ashworth, he's been shooting lights out from three. Creighton wins that game. Houston and San Diego State. Houston. And then Creighton, Vermont, Creighton. This is such a good matchup between Creighton and Houston. But I like Creighton. I think if Creighton is able to play good defense, I feel like Trey Alexander is the smartest player in the country with his game. He's so good from that mid-range part. He's in the gym all the time. He puts in so much work. Give me Creighton. Now we have our Final Four. Florida Atlantic. It's a crazy Final Four. I know. Let me know your thoughts on this Final Four. Florida Atlantic, Illinois, UConn, Creighton. Starting off with Florida Atlantic and Illinois. We saw this matchup earlier, and Florida Atlantic just let Marcus Damas drive every time. What I would like to see Florida Atlantic do more is put Vlad Golden, bring him to the top of the key, bring him to the three-point line. Let him play defense on Damas. That's what Purdue did to shut down Damas versus Edey. As well, Terrence Shannon Jr., he had 28 or 30 in that last game. He could also do that. But I feel like Florida Atlantic, it's so hard to beat a team twice in a season. I think Florida Atlantic gets over the hump. I feel like John L. Davis is a top 5 player in the country. His movement on the court is so good. It's so fluid. Give me Florida Atlantic to move on to the national championship. Our next Final Four game is UConn versus Creighton. Now, the thing I'm looking for in this game is how will Ryan Kalkbrenner match up versus Donovan Clay. Ryan Kalkbrenner is averaging the second most of 2 swats a game, 2 blocks, or swats, whatever you call them. But he's a great defensive player. And will Clingan be able to score on him? I do think so. Because I think Clingan, when he turns his back to anyone, you just can't beat him. He'll dunk on you. He'll do anything. I do like UConn. I think UConn as well with Tristan Newton they're going to they're just the better team. They're 8, 9 guys deep. They are just like as good as what they were last year. Now our championship game, Florida Atlantic and UConn. This could have happened last year. We were one game off of having this happen last year. We were one shot off. Like, if Florida Atlantic didn't blow that 14-point lead with 9 minutes left in the second half, they would be here. And I'm really high on Florida Atlantic. I think Nick Boyd and Elijah Martin are two guys no one's talking about who are really good. Trey Carroll, Brennan Laureate. Like, their team is super deep. And I look for teams that don't just have one scorer, but are super deep. And both these teams are super deep. But with that being said, I do have UConn winning the national championship. I just think Clayton would back down Vlad in the paint. It would be so easy for UConn. I think UConn would win this by 10, 15 points. And that is our predictions. Florida Atlantic, Illinois, UConn, Creighton. That'll do it. We did not go chalk. We put a lot of upsets. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave your thoughts down below. What you think. Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.